Everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Civivi Knives Chronic. First off, though, in the name of full disclosure, I gotta let you know that this was sent to me directly by the Civivi folks. Well, by the WePo folks, but they're the same folks as Civivi folks. Nonetheless, I told them, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, might be a gem, might be junk. I sent them the full disclaimer on my website. They still sent it along. We do have to assume, though, that these are going to be the very best quality controlled Civivi Chronics ever on the face of the earth, and that I'm doing my best not to let this affect the nature of my review. But there you go, full disclosure. Next thing, size comparison. As always, here it is against the Spyderco Delica. As we can see here, it's actually, it's not a tiny knife. In terms of this dimension, it's relatively small, but otherwise, yeah. Here it is against Spyderco PM2. So, yeah, this is a smaller knife than the PM2. And then here it is against the Ontario Rat number 2. So, yep, there you go. There is that. And then actually one of the two other size comparisons within the Civivi line real quick. Here it is against the Civivi Shredder, which is a much, much bigger knife. And here it is against the Civivi Praxis. And so, yeah, there you go. There is your size comparison real quick. What is a Civivi anyways? That is We Knives' budget brand. We has decided that for some reason they don't want to sell in low end, so they have Civivi now, and that's who made this guy. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this little knife right here. On the good side to start with, very easy to carry. Look, it's a relatively small knife. I mean, if we put this guy up against a ruler, here we are, a ruler. This guy is coming in, it's about 4 inches long overall in the pocket, a little on the thicker side, coming in about half an inch thick. But nonetheless, it's not a big size here, and it's relatively compact in that way. It's got an ambidextrous carry, so you can swap the clip over to the other side there. And it's using a deep carry clip, which I appreciate very much. So, on the whole, carry-wise, pretty easy here. No problem there. Next thing, lock bar access. You can see here they've both milled out a little area right here, or stamped out, I suppose, a little area right here, and given us a little bit of jimping on the lock bar, which makes this guy very easy to unlock. That's a very common issue that knives have, and they've addressed that one nicely, so that's good. Next thing, action on this guy, very reliable. Put my hand here, no wrist movement. Absolutely easy deploy, no problem here. And a very nice close as well. This is a textbook Civivi action, right? It is great. There is no concern about the action. The tent is plenty strong, and even with this relatively thin, relatively lightweight blade, there's no issue there. Next thing, some folks are actually going to like this, the blade shape here a little bit. Kind of a clip pointy sort of affair. A little unusual, very unusual actually, but, might be of interest to some folks. So that's good. Then finally, price-wise, it's $50, and that's good. I appreciate that very much. Anytime people are hitting that price range, that's great because it makes the hobby accessible to more folks. So to me, all of that is the good, is that it's $50. They've got a nice blade shape that, well, a blade shape that I think a lot of folks will find nice. A good action, good lock bar access, and it is very easy to carry. The great side, the blade. Blade 100% for me. Although the profile is, the fact is the grind on this guy is a little bit hollow and very, very thin. This has a nice thin edge to it. It is a very slicey, relatively thin blade stock, and it is 9CR18 MOV. Not the most performance steel on the face of the earth, but for $50, not a terrible choice. And so the fact, though, is that when it's this damn thin and when it's ground this well, you know what? It's gonna cut. So, to me at least, that is what is great here. By a mile, it's just this blade grind is amazing. So, that to me is what's great. On the bad side, to start with, this does have that kind of blade shape thing. At some level, what's weird about this is this part here feels like a very high-tech sci-fi thing. This feels very Old West. I just don't necessarily see the link between these two halves. It just strikes me as a very strange choice. It's not, this is entirely taste, but it feels like it kind of fell out of a random number generator, right? Like, okay, let's put on blade number 15. Oh, clip point. All right, whatever. Ship it. That's a little strange. If you take a look at the X-Arc, which is a very closely related knife with a front flipper instead of a back flipper and a more conventional blade, I think that's a little more attractive, but hey, this is a matter of taste. Judge it as you will. Next thing, this guy is pocket tech in a little tiny bit. It's actually not bad. It's relatively well rounded off. There's really not that much there. It's pretty abridged, but that's going to be something to keep in mind. And like I said, if that bothers you, there is the X-Arc, which is a front flipper knife with the protrusion up here, so you can flip it back like that. Do I have any front flippers handy? How do I not have a front flipper on the table? Oh, yeah, I do, right here. Steel wheel Scylla. This is a weird one, by the way, but still, where that's the opening action instead. So that is something you can keep in mind. Next thing, 9CR18 MOV is a steel that is okay. It's not super impressive, but it's not super awful either. It's just sort of in that main line there. It's Probably good to go for everyday carry. But it's just, you're going to sharpen it a little bit more often than you sharpen other, more advanced steels. It's a simple fact there. So it's a fine steel, but it's not a great steel either. Next thing, this guy is actually relatively thick. I mean, if we put this guy up next to the Spyderco Delica, we can see here it is a good margin thicker than the Delica in terms of its body and handle there. And especially given that it is a relatively small knife, that thickness ends up feeling a little bit more prominent. In the pocket, you definitely feel that thickness, although it's not a hard knife to carry, so that's not a big deal. Ergonomics on this don't work that well for me, I'm going to be honest with you. This part here isn't quite enough to be a forward finger choil. They haven't cut out nearly enough, even with my relatively small hands. And I gotta say, the clip is just way up in my business here. So it's fine. You can carry it. It's okay. But the ergos aren't great. And then honestly, and this final bit is very subjective. Well, actually, so is a lot of what I say. It's called a review, right? But this knife ends up feeling a little bit cheaper to me. It ends up feeling a little bit more sort of budget thrown together than some of the other ones in the lineup. I mean, for instance, if we throw this up against the Praxis, which is actually a cheaper knife than this guy, this feels a little bit more finished. If we throw this up against the Civivi Shredder, again, it just for some reason feels a little bit more. This guy with like these open areas here with all, it ends up feeling very, I don't want to say toy-like, but it kind of does have a little bit of that perception there. So as a result, I have to say, for whatever reason, this is just not super, I don't know. It comes across as, oh, this had better be a very inexpensive knife. And it is, but at some level, I feel like you can get something that feels subjectively a little bit nicer pretty readily, even within the Civivi lineup at the same price. So, to me, at least, all that is the bad, is that it feels a little cheaper than you'd expect. The ergos aren't amazing. It's a little bit thick on this dimension here. 9CR18 steel is okay, but not anything to write home about. It is pocket peckered a little bit, and the blade shape's a little weird. Ugly front, nothing really ugly, so let's go to the final conclusion. Look, another fine little knife from Civivi here. I mean, it's easy enough to carry. It's got nice lock bar access, a great action, a pretty unique blade shape, at least for this kind of a thing. Solid price, and a blade, most importantly of all, that is ground to cut and cuts well. This is a great blade, 100%. It is a little weird as a design. It's 9CR. It's a little thick on the pocket there. Not the most ergonomic thing ever. And I don't know, it just ends up feeling a little cheapy. It ends up feeling a little bit kind of, but the thing is, it's a fine little piece. Do remember that the X-Arc is a thing. Flippers are getting, I think a lot of people are sort of going past flippers in their own personal collection, so it's a good idea that they've done the front flipper version as well. And in a lot of ways, this form factor seems very well suited to a front flipper. So I think the X-Arc might be something that a lot of folks prefer, both aesthetically speaking and in terms of the front flippitude. But the fact is, even with all that, this is a very solid little knife. It is yet another great little knife from Civivi. At some level, that's getting to be real boring, right? And that's a great thing. By the way, it's just like you see a small knife from Civivi in the $50 range, it's going to be good to go. The deployment and the blade alone win at a lot of points, but most importantly of all, I mean, even if you're not like, oh my God, every part of this is blowing me away, oh, take my money, it's not that expensive. It's, $50. And so even if you don't find yourself absolutely head over heels in love with this particular knife, well, that resulting pain won't end up being a chronic issue. So anyways, there you go. Hope this was interesting to you, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.